That's a fun note. Justin said when he was going up onto the stage, I hope we tie, because every time Grant and I have tied, I've won the event.
Oh, wow, that's a pretty funny anecdote, actually.
I don't know if he's serious. Of course, that is cool that when he does that, he wins, but I'd rather win right now if I were Justin.
Yeah, honestly, like the odds of that actually being true every single time will diminish, right? Every time they tie. So I would definitely prefer to take the win.
Yeah, this isn't like using Rule the Region or something. This isn't a guarantee.
Now we do see both players getting their setup, placing their active Pokemon, and we'll get this going for you.
Yeah, we see Justin Bokhari is going to be bringing the Lugia V-Star Archeops, a shocker. Justin loves playing the most popular deck and bringing his own little twist, I suppose. We do see some interesting tech cards included, but overall, we've seen a lot of them, so I guess this is starting to get a little more standard, but I'm excited to see him as the pilot. He always ends up showing me something that I did not think the deck was capable of doing.
Yeah, and on the other side, we do see Grant playing the Lost Box deck featuring, once again, the Kyogre from Celebrations, which we did feature earlier from Azul, but we never actually got to see it in action. So maybe this will be the time where we get to see it. However, Justin does play Manaphy to prevent the damage. But there's no Dunsparce, so we'll have to see how, once again, the choice of tech cards... Ooh.
Manaphy, why? Why do you do this to us?
I mean, it is at the bottom prices, so odds are Justin will find it before Grant gets to a pretty much empty deck to be able to utilize Kyogre, but you never know.
Yep, and then on the other side, Grant did prize that Raikou, so I guess both players are going to be a tad bit upset on their opening search.
Yeah, absolutely, because the Raikou is definitely the first card you want to check for when you're up against Lugia.
No.
Oh, no. We see Justin with a bench and a pass.
Oh, that is not good. And Grant is going to start with that Battle VIP pass and the Comfy. You know, maybe Justin was onto something. Maybe a tie would be a good welcome sight at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we've talking about consistency, right, looking at Justin's deck, he does play 3 Lugia and 3 Archeops, and I believe only 2 Capture Energy, so quite the opposite of what we featured or what we were discussing earlier. These lack of options, or the reduced amount of options to be able to get your turn 1 Lugia, could end up costing him here, because now the advantage that he had by winning the coin flip is no longer there.
Yeah, it is absolutely gone. Still going to have to see if the hand even has a supporter to get things going, because this really could be a quick game by the looks of that opening turn. Grant is, of course, going to continue on and find good cards, and we do see that the Cramorant and the Manaphy have been selected. If we do see the Colress's Experiment along with 2 Comfies this turn, we could certainly see some damage getting played down, and that'd be pretty nice to get some aggression.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the choice of Manaphy here by Grant is very, very good, because he doesn't have a lot of ways to directly search for the Manaphy when he needs it, right? And he sees the Raikou immediately, and even though he clearly knows there's no threat of the Raikou this upcoming turn because there isn't even a Lugia in play, preparing for that, I think, has a lot of value. It's really, really good. Now, we do see a very difficult choice for Grant between the Colress and the Kyogre itself.
Yeah, going to keep the Kyogre. That is definitely some dedication. We do see that Scoop Up Net come down and more decisions to be made. With the Flower selecting, you have to think if the Colress's Experiment hits the Lost Zone that there should be one in the hand. And Grant is going to continue to flood the bench here now with the Radiant Greninja and an additional Comfy. So pretty solid start. It looks like we don't actually see the Colress's Experiment, so just going to be a pass. That is a really important Kyogre, I guess.
That was a very quirky turn by Grant. Like, you do see the weakness in Justin's start, and with the Colress, he would have been able to take advantage of that, attacked with Cramorant towards the end of his turn by getting the extra 2 cards into a Lost Zone, but he chose not to. He really values that Kyogre, and I guess there's also the fact that the information could be given to Justin in case he doesn't know already. Now, from Justin's perspective, he sees that Colress into a lost zone off of that choice and keeping the other card and not playing a Colress itself. So I think at that point you can 100% say that was the Kyogre. There's no argument there.
Yeah, he's like, what in the world's going on? You could have knocked me out, and you decided to do this. But I guess Justin's not really going to complain about how opening turns are played, as this evolution instance goes for the Lugia V-Star, and there's no Lugia on the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing crossing Grant's head is like he knows the Raikou is priced. I noticed he looked through his deck quite a few times, and he must have noted that there was no Raikou. Therefore, if he lost zones the Kyogre and he doesn't get the Raikou off the prices quickly enough, then his attackers are very underwhelming. Sableye doesn't do enough damage to get on Arceus, neither does Radiant Greninja, and there's Manaphy to consider. So that would have put Grant in a situation where his attacks are just completely underwhelming and he's not able to capitalize or to close out a game. He could have gotten a quick prize card, but not necessarily won the game.
Yeah, well, this is a huge turn here still for Justin. We really need to see the Lugia come down soon. Looks like just the collapsed stadium, and Crobat's going to try to assist here with Dark Asset. I don't know. That's not it.
There's no Lugia there. There's a bunch of energies. There's a Lost Vacuum. There's Search for the Arceus and Lugia V-Star, but no Lugia.
Well, I've got news. Grant found some really good cards off that Marnie. He's got the Colress Experiment and Energy as well. Lost Vacuum, I think. It is definitely the juice.
Yeah, things aren't going great when on turn 2 you're attaching energy to your Crobat, right? That's your main attacker right now in your Lugia deck. And yeah, that powerful energy, I mean, you wouldn't play Capture Energy over powerful energy, but there's other energies in Justin's hand. So that's the low amount of options or resources or access to the Lugia V is definitely coming into play right now, as we see Grant getting more cards into Lost Zone, and now he took that chill turn, but given Justin's very slow start, he's okay with taking this prize card one turn later.
Yep. Toward watching the stream, likely saying, I told you so. This is what happens. And sure enough, this is such an awkward spot for Justin now. Grant really just looking to capitalize on this opportunity. Prize cards should be available this turn. Just a simple retreat would be able to get the job done with that Cramorant. But maybe he has his sights on something else now. This definitely seems pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Grant's deck still not at the place where he would want it to be able to utilize that Kyogre, so it is going to take a few extra turns. He also doesn't have access to the Raikou, so he can't punish a single Lugia getting benched or something like that. And we finally see the Quick Ball from Justin.
Well, if you're going to get rid of a Pokemon, let it be Archeops, and that is a welcome sight. Maybe a couple turns too late. Do you think that there's enough time for Lugia to make a comeback here?
I mean, I generally think so because the Raikou is still prized. I mean, Justin doesn't know this, and he must assume that there's a Lightning-type attacker from Grant. So Justin is in a very quirky spot where he's probably going to be forced to utilize Read the Wind, and that means he's putting everything at risk. But like, if you don't do it, then you're definitely not getting anywhere close to winning the game, because his hand is also not great, so he really needs to do something. And this is well, if you knock on my Lugia, I'll probably scoop here, but if you don't, then I might actually be able to have a chance.
Well, it seems like a tall task, being that Grant hasn't been able to find that Raikou just yet. We know that is hanging out in the prize cards, and maybe some important damage could be placed on this turn, but Justin's not very worried about that. It looks like drawing cards is the only way to get out of this, and we're gonna read the wind.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure it's going through his head that if he does this, it's very risky, but it's also, you don't have any other option. If you don't do this, then you're not going to win the game. And now it's on Grant to try and put pressure on here. He does have access to Snorlax, so he can do an attack with Cramorant plus a Snorlax on the next turn to be able to take it down despite not having the Raikou. But of course, if Grant had the Raikou right here, he would be able to pretty much seal the game if he was able to knock out the Lugia.
Yeah, well, I guess that is one nice thing for Justin, as Lugia is likely to stick around for an additional turn. there should be an opportunity to get these Archeops established, and then maybe just using all of these additional tech single prize Pokemon, we could see an avenue to victory. But Grant has a big advantage right now, and you have to think that it's going to continue.
Grant having some really peculiar flower selecting here. First the Kyogre with the Colress, now the Energy with the Ordinary Rod. Of course, both cards help you. Both cards are very good. The Ordinary Rod is more useful later on, but right now is where Grant needs to apply this pressure.
Yeah, even just holding the Kyogre so that he was able to have an opportunity to use that as an attacker in the very late game potentially just makes me think that Grant is going to go through the deck as soon as possible. And once again, another tough call here, a Lightning Energy and a Mirage Gates. Are you kidding me? I've got all these cards in my hand, and I'd switch out any of them in a heartbeat, so I didn't have to make this choice.
Yeah, these flower selectings, like we usually see players like pick the card quite quickly, and Grant is really taking his time, really analyzing when he's gonna need these cards, why is he going to need them, and it's not been great for him. Like there's a lot of valuable cards in the Lost Zone, especially that Colress delayed him a turn. Now you have two valuable resources with the Lightning and the Ordinary Rod. That makes a follow-up Raikou, like back-to-back Raikou attacks, way more difficult than you would expect them to be. But he's definitely playing into the Kyogre because he doesn't have the Raikou until...
Hey, hello there. And that's a very welcomed find. And going to include this now with that Hisuian Heavy Ball. Don't know if we have the resources just yet. I believe the Mirage Gate was held, and it looks like plenty of cards are in the Lost Zone. Just I suppose just the switching out is going to be necessary too.
Yeah, because we do see an escape rope in Grant's hand, but that will, of course, send the Lugia back into the bench, and that will not be good enough for Raikou to be able to KO it. So, pretty interesting decision. I also find it peculiar that Grant chose to flower selecting before playing the Hisuian Heavy Ball, and I feel like having the knowledge of the Raikou, I mean, he must have known already, so I guess there's not that big a difference, but you don't know which cards you're going to get from the flower selecting. Maybe you don't want to reveal the Raikou. There's a lot going on right now.
Yep, a lot to think about. Of course, the considerations also seem a little more diminished when you're playing against an opponent who just hasn't gotten things rolling. But if you have to take that out of your mind and just keep playing your best game. And right now it looks like the answer is going to be just get some damage onto the Crobat V here. It's likely to be sticking around, and maybe you'll have an opportunity to remove that later on.
Yeah, and I guess with the collapsed stadium, Grant didn't have the space for Raikou anyway, so there was no knocking out that Lugia. And Justin will now be able to get those Archeopsis down. He will be able to get two, which is really fantastic, and won't be able to take that Crobat off the bench. That's not Lumineon, unfortunately, but we will finally start seeing some aggression from Justin, and I feel like the game, Grant is not too far ahead to where Justin can't recover, especially if he's able to take down that Manaphy at some point and utilize Raikou. Justin might still have a shot at this.
Well, it all revolves around that summoning star from the Lugia. Going to go ahead and use that very important V-star power and get these Archeops into play. At this point, then you'll be able to use Primal Turbo and get some special energy cards accelerated. And this is a pretty important decision of how do you want to get these special energies played out, because generally you go for a card like this Raikou, but the Manaphy was played so early that it doesn't really seem like a great call.
Yeah, and now it'll be interesting to see what attacker Justin focuses on this turn. Does he let the Crobat go down? Does he attack with Lugia? And what's the follow-up to that? How quickly will he be able to deal with that Manaphy to open up the Raikou play?
Well, it looks like Lumineon is a welcomed addition to the team. Going to have that Aqua Return as an option here, and we've spoken so highly of this card. Just being able to make use of these special energy cards, but also not lose them at any opportunity. You can just continually recycle them and make use of a pretty incredible ability in Luminous Sign.
Now, Justin does have the information that there's a Raikou in Grant's hand, right? So that does mean that whatever Justin promotes after the Aqua Return will be susceptible to the Raikou, and I feel like his own Raikou is very useful. And of course, you can't sacrifice the Lugia. You really don't want to give up 2 prizes with a Crobat, and you definitely don't want our Archeops to go down. So it's going to be very peculiar. However, we do see the counterplay with the Marnie, and now Justin knows the Raikou is at the bottom of the deck.
Yeah.
And those decks don't have a lot of access to finding cards, as we saw with the Manaphy Search on turn 1. So that Raikou might not be showing up anytime soon.
Yeah, maybe make Grant have to do a couple more flower selectings. It's been painful to watch all the decisions being made and all the tough calls as cards have been going to the loss zone. And if that's the only way to get a decent hand, which it looks like it is right now, this could be a very valuable play and potentially a play that buys an additional turn here.
Yeah, and we do see the Archeops getting promoted after the Luminous Sign attack. So. Sorry, the Aqua return. So it'll be interesting to see if Grant can capitalize on this. There's no Manaphy in play yet from Justin, so the Kyogre play is looking pretty good. Of course, there's still a lot of deck to go through to set that up from Grant, but maybe Justin doesn't suspect it, or maybe Justin is not planning to prepare for it.
Yeah, we'll see, because that was the prize card that Justin drew off of the this one knockout here from the Lumineon. So interesting to see if that 5th bench space will be held by the Manaphy, and Grant once again had to make an interesting call. The Psychic Energy into the loss zone. It's just so unfortunate. All these valuable resources to potentially closing out. I mean, that could be an energy for Sableye down the road to help start to target down a Crobat, and we're just going to see Radiant Greninja now trying to help with that concealed cards.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sure does.
Yeah, now Radiant Greninja, if there's a time to use it, it's right now. The Archeops is in the active. It does require a decent enough investment to take down the Radiant Greninja, and that's how you can snipe the Crobat this turn, with a Mirage Gate plus an attachment, and it would set up the Lugia potentially pretty nicely, or even the Raikou, so that it can be sniped with Sableye later down the line.
Yeah, those are definitely some strong calls. Interested to see if Grant has the cards to do anything just yet. Obviously, the hand was just Marnied, but look at it now. There's there's so many cards in his hand, and there might be some more opportunities than first let on.
Yeah, I think one big appeal of these Lost Box decks are the fact that they're not that susceptible to Roxanne or Marnie. They go through the deck pretty quickly. They can build big enough hands with flower selecting, and they can recover, so that's really, really good. Now, we are going to see what Grant has prepared here for the knockout. He needs to keep up the tempo. He still has the advantage because he's a single price deck, and he took the first knockout. So, running through his mind, he must be thinking, okay, what Pokemon is the choice to take down this Archeops? And out of all the ones that he has, only Raikou has access to a knockout, though.
That doesn't feel very good. I suppose it is a way to take prize cards, but I think in situations like this, you really start to look at your lost zone and hope that Sableye would be a resource that you could rely on. Start to spread the damage and put your opponent in a spot where they have to promote their big attacker or a lot of these special energy cards and put those in a vulnerable state instead of just attacking into an Archeops.
Yeah, absolutely. And if Grant focused on the Radiant Greninja here, if he does have the option to use it, I think that's the best call, because then he takes 2 prizes on the Crobat. The other damage might or might not be relevant, but Justin has no option to take a 2-prizer, so he'll be not only a turn behind in terms of the price trade-off, but he'll also be a price behind as well.
Well, we'll see what Grant is able to come up with, continuing with the flower selectings. Are you kidding me? It's Mirage Gate and Sableye. I think Sableye is going to make the cut there, but it doesn't get harder than that. That's tough.
Yeah, every flower selecting has been like the most difficult one for Grant so far. It's just like once he's gotten the early ones out of the way, you're like, nah, the rest should be easier, right? He had one choice of Pile VIP plus another card, so that was easy, but all these valuable resources, the Mirage Gate is good for your other attackers. The Sableye is useful right now, so I don't know, there's so much resource intensive wise for Grant that it's going to be it might be difficult to close out this game with all the resources he's lost so far.
Yeah, I guess we can't complain. The other 3 cards before this were Escape Rope, Double Battle VIP Pass, but seems like we keep really focusing on the tricky ones that come up.
Now, looking through his deck, he also doesn't have a lot of energies left. He does play that energy recycler to put 5 of them back into the deck, and he does play 2 copies of that, and he wants to thin his deck, but still, like, that makes the play very obvious to Justin as well, and you might not necessarily be able to attack with Kyogre because of Mana Fee.
Yeah, and I think Grant might just be playing the odds at this point and hoping that if it hasn't come out yet, that maybe it is one of those prize cards, and it's as simple as it being one of the remaining 5 prizes to make this game so much easier. And sure enough, it looks like the Crobat is going to be targeted down, and maybe that means that some additional damage gets placed onto the Lugia V-Star, and then you start to see the setup for the big knockout with the Kyogre. Curious to see if Grant is going to really focus on that, and it looks like that is going to be the play here. This does set up for the big 3-prize knockout, but Mana Fee can get in the way of that easily.
Yeah, Justin's going to be very relieved to have that Mana Fee from the prize cards. I don't know how much Grant knows about Justin's list. He might suspect at this point, like, if he hasn't seen the Mana Fee yet, there's none of it in the deck list, and then might have altered some of his decisions earlier on, but we're definitely going to see the Mana Fee hit play right now, and it'll be interesting to see what attacker Justin chooses, and this might be a turn where he is able to take down that Mana Fee of Grant's.
Yeah, these are 2 powerhouse representatives of really big name testing groups in North America. So I feel like they would start to understand what the other players' deck list is from this point on. Their paths must have crossed at some point as far as just anyone from Grant's testing group playing against Rahul or Sam or any of those players. So maybe playing with a little more information, and Justin did have a timely opportunity there now with the Mana Fee.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Grant does have Sableye to deal with that Mana Fee. Most Lugia decks do not play any sort of recovery, so it might take Grant an extra turn to pull this off, but it's definitely doable.
Well, as Tord loves to call it, here comes Fish. Aqua Return, very strong attack in this matchup. As we've seen over and over again, it is a great answer to these single prize Pokemon, and then just promote an Archeops. Nobody wants to knock that out, and we're back to the original step 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm becoming a big fan of Luminion the more I see it being played. And as I was testing for this event as well, getting ready, Luminion just felt like it's such an underrated card. But now we're going to see the Primal Turbo onto whom?
Yeah, you'd think that Luminion is certainly going to be the main target here, and then potentially just having to focus on that retreating aspect there, which is 1 retreat cost on the Archeops. Lovely to see. Have to assume the last energy is in the hand here for Justin, and maybe some hand disruption or something along those lines would be really nice.
Yeah, that gift energy being the energy of choice to retreat means there's not going to be... we're actually going to see Archeops attack. That's really, really good.
Giddy up. We've got the Speed Wing. And yeah, we know how important that is. And I guess that is a good nod. Seeing the gift energy means that this is a nice Pokemon to leave in the active spot. If Grant does get aggressive, you get a lot of cards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Justin does draw 5 from the Marnie, will take a prize card right now, so he'll have 6. That means there's only 1 extra card from the gift energy, but sometimes 1 card can be the difference between winning or losing, right?
Well, one big missing piece here is the Mana Fee on Justin's side. It never came down, and that does leave an avenue for victory for Grant potentially on this turn. Luminion is a slightly easier target to knock out than the Lugia, so not as many energies are necessary, and Oranguru can always assist in getting an additional energy placed on top if you need that. So we'll see how Grant wants to orchestrate this.
Definitely a very peculiar decision from Justin. I mean, it must have been intentional, right? At this point, you have to have that information. You have to know what's happening with Grant's deck. However, we do see capture energy for Raikou, so we might finally see Raikou come into play, putting Grant at a single price, maybe if he combines that with a Mirage Gate and a Boss's Orders this turn.
Yeah, might be a little bit too risky at this stage. The deck isn't thinned out as much as Grant would like it to be, and it seemed like there were plenty of additional cards that just weren't basic or any energies at this stage. So, of course, the energy recycler, excuse me, could be beneficial in thinning down. Looks like Pokestop was found too, and that is another way to burn some additional cards from the deck. So does Grant really want to go this route, or is it going to be the Raikou here?
I mean, it seems like he really needs a Mirage Gate, so that's why he chose the Pokestop. The Comfey, of course, would have given him extra dig, but so does the Pokestop. But it could also be costly. It could discard Roxanne, it could discard Colress, yeah.
Well, fleet-footed, going to at least be on the mind here. One additional card.
Which is a Comfey.
Another Comfey, why not?
So we'll have to see. All right, so I did see the Mirage Gate in Grant's hand, so he will be able to take a prize card. Justin will be able to retaliate with Lugia, right? So that Luminion will still be sitting pretty on the bench, and if Grant can finally pull off the Kyogre play next turn, then that Luminion might end up proving to be very costly for Justin.
Oh, Grant getting excited. We do see that Mirage Gate ready to go. Energies are lining up for this Raikou to get going here.
Yeah, so Raikou will be able to take down Arceus. With one Arceus being down, that does mean that Justin will have a slightly more difficult time powering up his Pokemon, but he's also played a lot of resources. He has thinned his deck quite a bit, so one Raikou will probably suffice at this point. The question is, can Grant pull off the Kyogre?
Yeah, that is going to be tricky. I honestly don't know if the resources are available. The Mirage Gates have been flying left and right, being used to continue to stay in the game, hitting the Lost Zone as some unfortunate flower selectings. Maybe there might be one left, and you have to think that Grant is thinking of that going into the last remaining turns here of this game.
Yeah, we did see one Energy Recycler was left in the deck, so, I mean, in the prize cards, so that makes the Kyogre a little bit more difficult. There's still no, Grant definitely still has quite a few cards in his deck left, so from what we can see at least, so maybe the Kyogre will not be an option, so maybe Justin will not need that Manaphy after all.
Yep, maybe just using these single prize Pokemon as best as possible here could be a way to come out on top. We do see that Radiant Charizard added, and I believe we saw at least one special energy that would be able to assist in this spot here. If not, Archeops certainly would be able to find something from the deck.
Yeah, now, I think Justin really needs to deal with this Raikou. I don't think there's any way around it. Luminion obviously is good, but it's not that good. So that means Lugia will likely attack, and therefore, if Grant is able to successfully recover the Raikou, he'll be able to win the game. However, I do think there's an Ordinary Rod in the Lost Zone, and he did play one last turn, and he only plays two, so maybe without the Raikou, Grant will not be able to close out the game. It is really back and forth, and time's running low as well.
Yeah, is that risky Kyogre time? Do you just try something? It's starting to get scary now.
Yeah, definitely. And with 23 minutes left on the clock, if game 2 is anywhere like this one, then it's probably not going to be enough to finish it off. So we'll have to see who the winner is of this game 1, and if the loser ends up having enough time to at least get a tie. Now, the tie does mean that both players will need to win their last round to make it into day 2. So it's definitely not something that either player wants, but first we have to finish this first game.
Well, with eyes on the prize, Justin is going to take the knockout with Tempest Dive on that Raikou, and we do know that it's going to be potentially a tough road for Grant to find the attacker to close out this turn. Of course, Raikou would have been fantastic, but the resources, I don't believe, are currently there. Could see if there is a way to accelerate some energies onto one of these other remaining Pokemon and get the job done. Kyogre, of course, comes to mind, but Is there enough? Oh my goodness.
What a
That's
flower
not okay.
selecting the single energy recycler available to Grant, and I believe that is the last Mirage Gate.
Oh,
I am fairly certain that is the last Mirage Gate. That flower
it almost
selecting
has to be.
Might have been game losing, honestly, at this point.
That has been the story of this match so far, is Grant having to make some of the hardest decisions we have seen so far in this tournament. And now the energies are going to be so hard to come by. I don't even know if they're even available in the deck right now. The other recyclers in the prize cards, and there's no more ordinary rod. What do you do?
Yeah, like I see the Colress experiment in Grant's hand. I can't fathom why he wouldn't have played the Colress before choosing to use the flower selecting. There we see the Colress. If he had played the Colress before, then he would have had access to both cards, right? He would have the Energy Recycler in his hand and the Mirage Gate, but now he had to give up one.
Maybe just a slight hedge to potentially find a card like Clara off of the Comfy, and then you could start using Sableye as an alternate route, but it did lead to that very unfortunate circumstance where you have to make a choice that seems losing either way.
Yeah, with Clara and Mirage Gate, Grant would have been able to close out this game, so I'm guessing that's what he was going for, but definitely not paying off for him. And yeah, the combination of the flower selecting plus the prize cards might end up costing Grant the game.
Well, there is certainly damage available still. Who needs energies when you've got Cramorant? And Cramorant is going to get the choice belt here and be able to spit innocently for 140 damage on this Lugia. See the switch cart come down, and at least having the damage to potentially close out now is Grant. But I don't like any of these Pokemon to close out if this Cramorant gets knocked out. This doesn't feel the greatest.
All right, so, I mean, now with the Clara in hand, Grant does have the possibility to utilize Sableye to close out the Lugia, no matter where it is, so that might end up being Grant's last resort to close out this game. And thanks to him not having a rulebox Pokemon in play, there's no way for Justin to take two prize cards. That Manaphy for Grant is being the MVP right now.
Yep, that is a great point. The Clara is going to be so beneficial here. If Justin is able to find a way around this, that would be very impressive. But having so much damage on the Lugia at this time and no real way to clean that up.
Yeah, there's no share and scare. The Collapse Stadium has been utilized because that was another option, right? Benching something and then retreating the Lugia and Collapse Stadiuming it away, if that's even a verb. But
we'll allow it.
Yeah, there's no share and scare in the list, so that Lugia is sticking by, and it might come down to the Sableye snipe.
Well, Serena is going to do some discarding, draw up to 5. No V Pokemon to target down.
Yeah. And they think, like, this really showcases the strength of Grant's deck, right? We have yet to see the Kyogre once again. The plays really didn't lead to that. The prizes didn't really help. The flower selectings really didn't help. But Grant still has so many options within his deck to hit the active for a lot of damage, hit the bench for a lot of damage. And having all these options, I think, really opens up so many paths to win the game that it really benefits someone with the skills such as Grant.
Yeah, this is definitely a showcase of how everything can go wrong and you can still find your way out. And looks like, yes, there was the Serena played, so very good pickup there from Grant. Grant could argue that he's just going to close out on this next turn, and yeah, we're just going to move on. It never happens. Shield your eyes, and let's try to move on to game number 2.
Yeah, regardless of what happens, if Justin saw any cards or not, Grant just shows the Clara, tells Justin, I have Sableye. That Lugia is dead no matter where it is, so yeah, let's move on to the next game.
Well, with little over 17 minutes left in this series, looks like Justin is going to have to hope for that tie. That means that he wins this tournament, because it's all that's probably left on the table. It is very hard to take all those prize cards against Grant, and sure enough, we saw it just there. even able to make a huge comeback potentially was Justin, and it just didn't line up because Grant wouldn't go away.
Yeah, but the scenario is right there, right? Justin did mention that he wanted to tie if he wins this game 2 very, very quickly, and he'd get that tie, and then we'll see if the prophecy fulfilled itself.
It's pretty impressive. It'd be quite the call out, but we'll have to see what progresses. Even with a tie here, both players would be looking to win their next match in order to make it into day number 2. So certainly not going to help either player. Grant has to be feeling a little more comfortable knowing that it takes a long time to at least knock his deck out, and with 16 minutes to go, maybe there is an opportunity to just survive with one game win here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think seeing this result and seeing how definitely close game 1 was, like, it's a testament to how good Lugia is, how good Justin is as well, because he whiffed Lugia not only on turn 1 but also on turn 2, right? And on turn 3 he had to use Read the Wind and expose the Lugia to a potential KO.
Right.
So until turn 4 he couldn't attack, and the game was still very, very close. So if Justin manages to get the Lugia 1 or even 2 turns before, maybe we're talking of a different game winner. And if he gets it on turn 1, then can Lugia even lose?
And then also had the foresight to not play down the Manaphy, which probably would have ended up being a really nice Sableye target. So just really strong plays when put in a terrible position. We saw both players having to combat that, albeit in completely different avenues of play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's pretty interesting how both decks have different ways to access resources. Grant immediately went for the Manaphy, knowing that he doesn't have great ways to specifically target it outside of the 2 Quick Balls and 2 captures that he plays. But Justin does play 4 Quick Ball and 4 Ultra Ball. So with that Manaphy being unlocked from the prize cards, it's very likely that after a supporter, you'd have a way to find it, even if it gets shuffled back into the deck.
Well, we do get a peek at the prize cards here for Grant. The Sableye and the Psychic can be occasionally impactful. We do see that Mirage Gate in a decent spot for when it does start to see some play, and the Cramorant a little early could be nice too. So this sometimes your prize cards help you. I guess the Battle VIP Pass, the only one you're just like, about, because you'd wish it was at the top, but I won't complain about these.
Yeah, absolutely. This is looking pretty good for Grant. As long as he didn't start the Raikou, I think I'd feel pretty comfortable here if you're Grant. And you get extra cards off the mulligan.
Don't put that on Grant. If I see a Raikou start, I'm going to lose it.
Oh, my. Yeah, I'm definitely not wishing that on Grant.
Well, I mean, he might see the Raikou because this is the 3rd mulligan, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Oh, look, he found...
He does have the Raikou in his hand, but it's not the active.
He found 3 basic energies off the top. You know, when you get 3 mulligans, you're usually like, oh, cool, I'm going to get some helpful stuff. No, here's the energies. Have fun.
Right now, Justin must be having a sigh of relief. There's the Lugia immediately, so he will have that pressure. He potentially needs to attack 6 times back-to-back to win this game. Does he have enough time to do that? That is the real question.
Yeah, put yourself on the clock, go into turbo mode, and get the job done. And it looks like just the energy attachment onto the Lugia is going to be enough here. Don't really have to play out too much if you don't want to. And it's up to Grant now to try to formulate a strategy for this lone Lugia here.
Yeah, the gift energy can be pretty good, but this early on, not that impactful.
Oof, the Oranguru just Primate Wisdom, throw an energy on top, get I believe it was Escape Rope in return. But that Battle VIP Pass is a nice find, and maybe we will see a Comfy after all.
Yeah, absolutely. And this does mean with 5 Pokemon in play, Justin needs to attack at least 5 times to get this tie. And with 13 minutes on the clock, I'm not sure we're going to be seeing that, but Grant definitely in a very good spot to even just win this game, right? That, like, if we were able to play this game completely, Grant with a very good chance, especially with the Raikou not being prized this time.
Right, you have to think that if Grant were able to find all the right cards, that this could potentially go his way and be a closeout 2-0 victory. But Justin just having an opportunity in this space is important. Of course, you have to consider +3 turns, so as long as Justin could have Grant start turn with no time on the clock and take 4 prizes, then there is a potential to win here. So it's going to have to at least see 4 prize cards very early.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we do see Escape Rope. We're going to start seeing some flower selectings. Hopefully they're kinder for Grant. And I think the first one definitely is. The Pokestop is, of course, a great resource to have access to, but the Mirage Gate is a game-winning card. And there's another Pokestop right there.
I heard you don't like Pokestops. So we put a Pokestop in your Pokestop.
Yeah, apparently the Pokestops right now for Grant are as good as Battle VIP passes will be after this turn.
I think Grant misunderstood that the Go competition starts tomorrow.
Now, 3 cards in the Lost Zone going first. Of course, you want to get that Cramorant attack if possible, but if it's not possible, then this is still, I think, decent enough. Grant will definitely want to find a Colress next turn, and his current setup, there's no way to guarantee one, but hopefully he finds it and he's able to get going with those Mirage Gates and possibly respond to this Lugia.
Yeah, I mean, really, this is all you can ask for. You get 3 cards into the Lost Zone. You have the multiple Comfey set up for the following turn that gets you to 5. Colress gets you to 7, and then Mirage Gate and the Raikou V could potentially start knocking out the Lugia V-Star. Of course, not playing the Dunsparce, so big target on the back here of the active Pokemon.
And now complete polar opposite for Justin. He got that double Arceus with the Ultra Ball discard to find the Lugia to power up. So in a really good spot. And he also has a Marnie that he's about to play, I'm sure. So he doesn't know what Grant has in his hand. He does know that there's no Colress experiment, so this might gift it to Grant. But I think Justin really wants to find other attackers, wants to really get going and take those prize cards as soon as possible.
Yeah, when I mulligan 3 times on the opener, I'm going to Marnie as soon as I possibly can. There's no way that you're getting to see those cards for more than a turn, and Lugia is going to Tempest Dive, take the big knockout here. Maybe a little too much damage onto the Comfey, but it will be enough. And Justin has that 1 prize. 3 more in this time frame would be enough to potentially find a victory. So keep an eye on that clock. 10 minutes remaining.
Now, Grant did find the Colress, 2 of them, in fact, off of the Marnie, so sitting very nice here. 1 Mirage Gate is at the bottom of the deck, the one that he did pick with the flower selecting, but it'll be interesting to see if he's able to find another one. He does find the Quick Ball and a Lightning Energy, so the Raikou play is potentially there. The question is, can Grant find all the pieces, which are an extra Comfey to get that 7th card in the Lost Zone, and then the Mirage Gate itself to power up the Raikou.
Well, resources are dumb. Throw them away. Ordinary Rod Psychic down. Lightning Energy and Quick Ball to the hand. You have to think those are going to be very beneficial to a potential Raikou here. Down goes Lightning Energy for concealed cards. And Comfey's going to continue to push along, and that's an easy decision. We've been waiting for those.
That's the fastest we've seen Grant choose from flower selecting, sorry, as opposed to the other really difficult decisions that he's had to make. So now it doesn't seem like he found the Mirage Gate. He might try with another Comfey off of this Capture Energy, but no, he decides to go for the Cramorant route and set up the 2 KO through Snorlax, most likely.
Yeah, that's could be an ideal way to take the knockout here. We do see that there are 6 in the Lost Zone, so just a little bit short of using the Mirage Gate. So if that's not an opportunity, just go ahead and spit innocently on the opponent's Lugia and try again next turn.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, from Justin's perspective, in an ideal world, as long as your Lugia takes 2 prize cards before it's taken down, then you trade it You trade it evenly, and he got the initiative this time on the prize trade-off. So it's on Grant to compensate for that through the use of his single prize attackers or through a better prize trade-off at some point. So Justin definitely has the initiative, and we have 8 minutes on the clock plus those returns. So perhaps Justin can pull through here.
Yeah, and kudos to Grant for keeping the pace of play up. Both these players certainly going to have an opportunity here in game number 2. Cramorant going to start to get aggressive here, spit innocently, lining up on the Lugia V-Star, and the first initial chip damage comes down into play, and Justin's going to waste no time. Luminous Sign on that Lumineon, going for the boss's orders, and you have to think that this Pokemon could also be the recipient of some special energies this turn as well, potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And this Boss's Orders place is especially strong because Grant did lost on one copy of Ordinary Rod. And if Justin was taking a look and taking mental notes of how many of which cards Grant plays, he will know that there's 2 Ordinary Rods in the deck, which means the mana fee can be recovered. But at this point, finding the Ordinary Rod is not very easy. The deck is still probably around 30 cards for Grant. Finding that one extra copy will not be easy. And that opens up the Raikou play, therefore accelerating your win condition, and there's the boss choice.
Yep, that's a perfect explanation. Really just going to line up an opportunity where you don't have to worry about how many turns you have available, because you can start taking multiple prizes in a turn, and the energies certainly will be available. We are going to see the Luminion go back into the deck by way of the Aqua Return, taking the knockout on the mana fee. And that is 2 prize cards that Justin has taken in the game. 2 more before the time clock is called would leave an opportunity. But I guess even now, with if the mana fee were not to be around, we could see a window where 3 prizes could be taken in 2 turns.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is actually going to be a very close game. Grant now a little bit in the backseat. He can't target down this Lugia. He does not play any form of gusting effect. And that means Greninja Snipe or a Sableye Snipe is just not enough to get this KO. The only possible way to knock out this Arceus without a Rulebox Pokemon is through that Snorlax, and that will give Justin a sigh of relief. But not having that Arceus down, that second Arceus down, will make the Raikou response a little bit harder. It does mean that Justin has to have either an Aurora Energy or Speed Energy in his hand in order to be able to power up the Raikou in a single turn.
Yeah, it's asking a lot, and as you're getting to these crucial points, you need everything to go your way. Just a little over 5 minutes remaining. Grant left with another decision to make. Recycler was one of the options. Didn't catch the other one just yet. And it's going to switching up with the switch cart.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of, or rather a little bit of indecision with Grant. He knows the pressure is there with no mana fee now. He knows the Raikou is a possible play for Justin, and I don't think he's going to be able to do anything about it right now, which will really put Grant far behind.
Yeah, this maybe means that Grant has to focus on one of those really long shot opportunities with cards like Kyogre or something of that sort, where you just really just go all in on something risky in the coming turns. Of course, right now, if there were an opportunity to take the knockout on the Lugia, you would try to work that in, but this does feel a little bit awkward here. Snorlax is going to be the recipient of these energies more likely than not, and at least some knockouts will continue.
Yeah, I do think the Kyogre play is definitely what's on Grant's mind to be able to close this one out. However, Justin, of course, has access to the mana fee, and Grant also chose to not keep the Colress Experiment in his hand. So that does leave only one left, I believe, in order to try and thin his deck. There isn't like a bunch of Comfeys that he can use to really get down to 0 cards. So that Kyogre is going to struggle to really pull through that big 250 damage to 2-bench Pokemon, as long as Grant has more cards in his deck that are not energy cards specifically.
Well, we might have to clean up the board a little bit. Yeah, I appreciate that from Grant. Looked like Snorlax had a lot attached to him. Instead, it's just going to be just enough to take the knockout here with that thumping snore. And are we going to wake up?
Yeah, he did. He flipped double heads to be able to wake up. But it did seem like Snorlax was getting absorbed into the Lost Zone with everything being connected.
Oh, no.
Now, we do see an Ultra Ball from Justin immediately, grabbing that Luminion once again. So seeing the power of Luminion and its own attack as well. And we'll have to see, will this be for a Marnie to disrupt whatever Grant is planning? Will this be for a Research to really dig through the deck for that Raikou? This is a very important turn for Justin. If he can pull off the Raikou, he's going to be in a very, very good spot. But not searching for the Raikou here.
Yeah, this looks like Archeops is going to be one of the big attackers. And that definitely could be awkward, because if this Pokemon were to fall, you'd have no way to accelerate energies anymore, and that's a big risk. But I'm not sure if we'll exactly see it come out just yet.
Yeah, we do see the Marnie being played, so no Raikou possibility this turn. Did I miss it being priced?
I didn't see it. Not sure. I do see that the Lugia was benched, and there was a little bit of discussion as to if that were played down or not. I think Grant definitely needs that card to be played. I'm not seeing it there, so
Yeah.
just not interested currently.
Yeah, I generally would love to know what Justin is planning here. This was the perfect opening. He set it up for the Manaphy. The Manaphy didn't see play. And now, once again, if you're Justin and you didn't see the Ordinary Rod the previous turn, then you know it's not in Grant's hand. And by playing this Marnie, then there's a chance that the Ordinary Rod is now in Grant's hand, or if Grant ends up using Flower Selecting or Color's Experiment, which do not shuffle the deck, then the likelihood of finding Ordinary Rod is even higher. And if the Manaphy hits play, that means Justin needs to attack 3 more times to be able to win. And we're at 1 minute left on the clock, basically.
Yeah, no, that is a great point here, as Grant is playing this turn with the last minute of this Swiss round. Of course, both players with the plus 3 turns to look forward to. And sure enough, an Ordinary Rod is found.
Yeah, that Ordinary Rod will surely be utilized for Manaphy. Possibly for the Snorlax, that would allow Grant not only to protect his bench, but also to take down the active Lugia, and that's exactly what we see with 2 energies to go along with it. We see the capture energy to be able to establish the Raikou even, not going for the Snorlax. I'm guessing he didn't have double Mirage Gate to be able to commit to that, and the Lugia will be taken down by the Raikou right here.
Yeah, this is a big power play, having the opportunity to remove the Lugia, put some pressure back onto Justin, and then perhaps being able to find that Manaphy on the following turn, and you just get that Raikou out of harm's way. If it isn't knocked out, then really you're just in a situation where Justin isn't going to be able to take enough prize cards.
Yeah, now Grant, with the Raikou being powered up, it puts Justin in a very awkward spot where if Justin commits to the Raikou this turn, then he's not knocking out Grant's Raikou itself because it only does 120 damage, so he's only getting 1 prize card. And if Justin commits to knocking out the Raikou, then Grant still has the option to Clara it back, and there's no threat for a 2-prize turn. So Grant planning this out very, very well.
Well, we did see that the judge signified the end of the time here in Swiss round number 8. Grant is going to be turn 0, leaving 2 turns for Justin to try to close things out. And it looks like that is going to start with Fleet-Footed in combination with likely a knockout here from the Lightning Rondo.
Yeah, now by Grant having that Raikou down, it will be on Justin to close out this game. Grant is turn 0, that means Justin is turn 1, Grant turn 2, and then Justin turn 3. So as long as Justin is able to knock out the Raikou and then has a follow-up knockout on whatever Grant ends up using, then Justin might actually pull this off in the plus 3 turns.
It seems like a lot. I want to know the special energy counts. Is there an opportunity for choice belt and powerful energy for Archeops? Because that'd be kind of cool.
That would be really cool, actually. I mean, Lugia V-Star, of course, would have a much easier time. I definitely haven't been able to keep track of all the energies that Justin is out of right now, including like the double turbos to power up the Lugia with a single Arceus, right? That's what could make a difference. I did notice the energy right there, and we also have the Radiant Charizard access, so that can take the KO also. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening here, and if Justin can close this one out with the extra turns.
Yeah, you have to think if Grant just went for a Manaphy, this game was over. It's not the way you want to win, but the math just doesn't work out anymore, and this opens up an avenue potentially for Justin to take a big knockout here, and it's just one more prize to go in turn 3.
Yeah, absolutely. If Grant had taken a chill turn, just attacked with Cramorant, set up the Manaphy, there would be no rulebox Pokemon, so there would be no way for Justin to take 3 prizes in 2 attacks. It would be as clear as day. So interesting to see the aggression of Grant this time around not paying off.
Well, we are going to see the energies down onto the Radiant Charizard. Excited Heart is going to be active. So now we have an opportunity here to see the Combustion Blast for a knockout.
Ooh, now this research is a little, or not a little, a lot, not great for Justin, because he did hit that double turbo and a bunch of other energies as well. So depending on how many energies he has left and what Grant ends the turn with in the active, if Justin is forced to use Lugia, he might not necessarily be able to power it off unless he's able to Marnie back energies into the deck.
Yeah, that is something that we've seen with a lot of these decks that just accelerate energies from the deck. If you draw into them, you don't really get to take advantage of them. Like Rillaboom and just having these awkward turns where you just find all your energies and you have to pass.
And now we finally see Manaphy from Justin, so no Kyogre shenanigans happening from Grant. Now, I do believe Kyogre maxes out at 250 damage, so there was no way for Grant to take 4 prizes in this turn. He could have taken 3 by knocking out Luminion and Archeops, but that Manaphy pretty much guarantees that there's no possible way for Grant to close out this game here. And yeah, that Raikou taking prizes might have actually costed Grant the win here instead of the tie.
Yeah, Justin saying, you should have played this card. this one's really good. And now it is up to Grant to try to piece together this puzzle once more. It has plenty of reach, as we see double Mirage Gate, the Kyogre, and all these different tools, but it's not exactly what you're looking for, I suppose.
Yeah, I think this turn comes down to, can Grant prevent a KO more than take one? It really doesn't matter what Grant knocks out. He cannot win the game this turn. So it's more about preventing Justin from taking that very last prize card on his very last turn.
Looks like we see the switch cart added to the hand. So maybe just finding the Pokemon with the highest hit points could be a spot here.
Yeah, both Ordinary Rods have been exhausted, so that probably means that it's either Clara or Boss, because even though the Charizard just attacked and it can't attack next turn, we do know that Justin has the double turbo for Archeops next turn, and that does mean that it can knock out anything on Grant's side except the Greninja.
Okay. Oh, maybe that is an avenue that Grant will explore. Continuing to look through and see if Comfy is able to assist pulling up a Pokemon that doesn't already have the energies to retreat would be valuable in a spot like this.
Now, the Flowers Electing did give Grant the Clara, so he can get back the Raikou. So it might come down to that. Can Raikou survive a hit for Grant to close out this game into a win by not letting the game finish?
Raikou, you put us into this mess. You better get us out.
I think, did Grant already retreat? I believe he did. So the Clara might get the thing into play, the Raikou, but that's not good enough. I might be wrong, though.
I think we saw switch card.
Yeah.
So this Comfy should be able to retreat.
There we go. There's the Raikou. There's another Comfy as well. Lightning Energy being a little indecisive here for Grant. It's definitely a very nerve-wracking turn.
Yep, right. There's a lot on the line here. Ty feels terrible.
Yeah, tie here would feel like a win for Justin and like a loss for Grant. It's definitely not a good feeling. I've been in this situation plenty of times.
And Justin's going to then look at his record and go, oh, yeah, that didn't really matter much, did it? It's only good for the prophecy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it will, like, if both players end up winning their last round, if this is, in fact, a tie, that does put them at 20 match points, which is definitely a little better than 19, and it puts you in a slightly better spot going into day 2. Of course, you would prefer to walk in with 22 or 23 or even 24 match points, but 20 puts you very far ahead of basically half of day 2, it seems.
Yeah, that can be very beneficial. Maybe it leads to just not having to IT in around in the late stages and just go for wins. But Grant is going to bring up the Raikou fleet-footed just because, and I think it is in the active because of its hit points, and it certainly seems that way. Justin's going to try to find the answer here.
Yeah, can Justin power up the Lugia? That is the big question here. Can he do it? He's really thinking through how, but like I said, all these energies in Justin's hand might actually end up not working out for him. We can see like he's trying to figure out some maths. He's holding 3 energies, I believe, a powerful, a double turbo, and an Aurora. So I have to wonder how many energies does he have left? Oh, 2 Auroras, in fact.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Is the situation just trying to thin down for a Serena draw or something?
Well, the thing is, like, the energies being in Justin's, like, he doesn't benefit from drawing extra cards. He needs those energies back into the deck. So the only way he could do it, the Marnie was the next card, actually, which is exactly what he needs. There's no Crobat, there's no Luminion to search for it. So I really don't know. This is turn 3, so even though it does seem like Justin would end up winning this game, unless he attacks right here, right now, it's not happening, and it will be a win for Grant.
Yeah, the Charizard did attack last turn, so a switching effect would have to occur, and we're not going to see that because that is not a card featured in this list. So it's going to have to be one of these Pokemon on the bench getting the job done, or something from the hand potentially.
Yeah, those switching cards are something that we've talked about a lot before. Oh, there is Crobat. I'm sorry about that. There is Crobat. So Justin really needs Marnie here to replenish the deck. And there it is. There's the Marnie. That means Justin gets to put those energies back. He does need another one to be able to attach, though, because the Ultra Ball was so costly. He had to get rid of energies. If Justin has another energy left in his deck, he can pull it off. But
yeah, the debate, I guess. I mean, seeing double turbo, that's an energy you generally like to get down, because then you just need to find any 2 energies. If you can guarantee that, I mean, you don't even have to worry about the other powerful energy, I suppose.
Yeah. Here, Raikou has how much HP? 200?
Yep.
If it's 200, then this is good enough.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter as long as just 2 energies aren't, the last 2 energies aren't found here.
Justin drew the other energy. That means he doesn't have 2 energies left in the deck to power up. All the energies he drew off the research. That's so unfortunate.
Wow.
He's not able to capitalize on Grant's mistake of trying to be aggressive. There's no energy left for Justin to be able to attach. This is real back and forth, so I'm guessing no prophecy this time.
Yeah, I think Justin was trying to say that if I used the Aurora energy, attached it, and then maybe used that as a way to thin down my hand, I could have then put the double turbo back into the deck with the Marnie that I've kind, and that probably could have gotten me there. But just the ordering, of course, just getting a little bit unlucky there. If we didn't see that Aurora energy in the top 5 off the Marnie, then this would have been a tie.
Yeah, it's crazy to think how often are you in a situation where you play a Marnie or a Research and you don't want to draw that specific card, right? You needed to be still in the deck, and Justin had 2 hurdles, right? It was the Marnie off the Crobat, and then it was not drawing that Aurora. And that also combined with the excess energy that he did end up drawing off of that initial Research, and that he had to Ultra Ball away. That means he couldn't put 2 energies back. Now, if on the other hand, Justin had played towards putting the double turbo and the Aurora energy back into the deck, then once he draws that Aurora energy, then he's able to attach the double turbo and the Aurora to the Lugia. So, you can only say you made the right or the wrong choice after the fact, right? But until it happens, then you have to play to the odds. And Justin played to not drawing the energy, and unfortunately, it did not pay off.
Yep, and it's heartbreaking. But of course, we also know that it wasn't super important. It's not like this was for the win to get you the 3 match points, which helps you lock up day 2. Unless you're Grant. If you're Grant, this is perfect. This is exactly how you drew it up. Maybe you play the Manaphy next time and try to avoid some of these issues, but I guess that also comes into play of, do you have a great understanding of how much time is left in the game 2? If both players are wearing that watch and have a perfect understanding of how much time is left, then maybe you are making decisions with all of those answers. But Grant really did go for the win, and you have to give him credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. In a full game, it definitely felt like Justin would have been able to close it out, but Grant was not letting go, right? And Grant still had the option to potentially use the Kyogre, which unfortunately that's a whole second series with the Kyogre deck that we didn't get to see a single time.
I promise it's in the deck. It does things. It will be cool, but we have not seen it yet, and it's very anticlimactic.
Yeah, we're gonna try and see if on day 2 we get to see the attack in action, but I feel like with Raikou, with like Amazing Rare Raikou, with Radiant Greninja, and also the Kyogre, because it did see a little bit of success leading into the event, and before that even, it makes sense for players to be playing Manaphy, right? And we are seeing Lugia even prioritize Manaphy over Dunsparce so far. So Manaphy being the MVP of a lot of decks and making it so that that small part of the deck that Grant's group is trying to utilize, it's really not paying off, at least on stream, right? But I'm sure over the course of 8 rounds, they've been able to use it successfully.
Yeah, we'll have to ask Grant if the Kyogre has ever seen play, because I'm very interested if that has been able to do the job. As we've seen so many other attackers be very successful for Grant throughout that game, and of course in watching Azul earlier as well. It seems like a very well-rounded deck that has plenty of opportunities to outplay the opponent. And I think both players gave us a very great effort, regardless of what the draws had in store for Justin.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'd like to draw a comparison to Adam's deck, for example, the Amazing Rare Rayquaza, which both decks rely on this big Pokemon doing a lot of big damage. One targets 2 Pokemon on the bench, the other does really a lot of damage to the active Pokemon. But there's no way to stop the damage from Rayquaza, right? So that is a difference, and that could prove important if you're facing off against a lot of decks that are utilizing Manaphy. So that could be a big differential moving on to day 2.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm interested to see how this round went for Adam, if he was able to continue on this tear and maybe make it 7-0-1. That'd be very nice, and that has been the only real ultra rare Rayquaza that we've been following right now. We don't really know what else is going on with that card. Has it seen play in some of these Lugias even? I don't think so.
I mean, it wouldn't see play in Lugia because they rely on special energies, and unfortunately Rayquaza's attack relies on discarding basic energies, so it's probably never going to see play in Lugia. But, I mean, the flexibility that these Lost Box decks have, like, both decks played out very much the same throughout the rest of the game. They were both playing Raikou V as well in order to counteract Lugia, but their choice of, like, I don't want to say gimmick, but like their choice of like their uniqueness of the deck, they have different approaches. And I mean, the fact that Grant's deck has been so successful, was able to beat Lugia without even needing the Kyogre, really speaks of the strength of the Lost Zone engine, which perhaps still has more to say despite Silver Tempest arriving this season. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to hear. We do have our winner of this round lined up and ready to go, so go ahead, Freya, and let us hear from Grant Manley.
Thank you, casters. Yes, I'm here with our Round 8 feature match winner, Grant Manley. Huge congratulations, first of all.
Thank you. That was a really nail-biter at the end of Game 2, and I'm still kind of reeling from it. How lucky I got at the end there. But yeah, Lugia is a pretty favorable matchup if they don't have Stoutland, but Justin is really good at Pokemon, so he was able to maneuver really well, especially in the second game. But yeah, that was a close one for sure.
I mean, we were all just watching it, even the other casters were there backstage watching it and thinking the whole time that Mike, we couldn't even believe what was happening, right? It's sort of that really long game 1 and that nail biter game 2. Talk us through that. What was going through your mind when Justin was digging through the last pieces and you saw that needed the Marnie to put the energies back in the deck, but then redrew it? I mean, what were you thinking during all that?
Okay, so yeah, crazy ending to that one. I didn't think we were going to have time to finish that game, but then when time wasn't called yet, I was like, I guess I go for Raikou now. And then time was called right after I put the Raikou down. And I'm like, oh, I should have just not put this down, and then I couldn't lose. But now I have to, and the sequencing was like really weird because I didn't have energy in my deck to like attack with it, but it didn't matter since Charizard can't attack 2 turns in a row anyway, so that didn't really matter. So I was like, I guess I'll just put up the Raikou and hope that he doesn't, like all the energy are in hand or something. And yeah, it was crazy. I realized when he Ultra Balled away the 2 energy, I'm like, okay, DTE is in hand, and then another energy is also in hand, and then an energy is in the deck. Only one, because otherwise I would just lose on the spot. And I go, okay, so he's going to Marnie, and then I just have to hope he gets the energy. And yeah, it was really unfortunate for Justin that all the energy were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and sometimes that will happen with Lugia, but to that extent it was pretty crazy. Yeah, I guess I was kind of behind in that game from the get-go. Normally, when you hit a Lugia with Cramorant, you want to KO it with Snorlax, because then you get more value from Raikou when you're KOing a clean Lugia. But I don't think I like had the pieces exactly for that. I think I was like an energy short or a switch card short or something. So yeah, but the game 1 was like great. Everything went fine. I went ahead pretty easily. Though I did have to get the Manaphy game 2 because of the Raikou. But yeah, it was pretty crazy ending. Just happy to get out of there alive.
Yeah, I can imagine after that nail biter. Now, one thing that the casters mentioned, of course, I wanted to ask about as well, is we didn't really get to see Kyogre come into play much in that matchup. Of course, it is the big finisher of this like Lost Zone box variant that you're playing. Have you had much of a chance to use it today, or in your other matches, or like how has that fared for you today generally?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. Kyogre's been really good for me today overall. In that game, I was just pretty far ahead in game 1, so I didn't really need it. And then in game 2, Justin saved the Manaphy for the 1 turn I was thinking I was actually going to Kyogre. So then I couldn't even do it in that time. So it just didn't happen to come up. Usually it is pretty good against Lugia, because if they do have Manaphy, you can KO it with Sableye. Just so happened I wasn't able to do that in that game. But yeah, that was my plan, to take 3 prizes, hopefully take 3 prizes in that last turn. But then I couldn't actually do that because of the Manaphy perfectly timed on the bench there.
Yeah, so essentially what you're saying is like Justin kind of like timed it well to make sure that you could make the most use out of it. Probably maybe having some knowledge that that was what you were sort of planning to finalize in terms of the end game of how you're going to win.
Yeah, Justin is like really smart. Every time we play, it's like really close. We've tied a couple times, and then he's beaten me a couple times. I don't know if I've actually beaten him before, but now is the time to do it. Pretty favorable matchup overall. If they don't have Stoutland, I'm pretty comfortable with the matchup overall.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Now, of course, with that win, you are locked into day 2, which must be a pretty good feeling. Just before we head back to the casters, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to? Any particular thanks you want to give? Anything like that?
Yeah, I'll shout out the testing group that I play with and traveled with here. So Caleb Gedimer, Azul GG, Kid Stark, Dan Altavilla, and also follow me on Twitch at TrickRoar. Thank you.
You heard it straight from the horse's mouth. Now we're going to head back to the casters for a little wrap up for that round. So casters, back to you.